Okay, so another couple of minutes to go, but again, a warm welcome to everybody who's joining us from around the UK and other parts of the world. This session will be starting at 12 midday UK time, so another couple of minutes to go. Okay, warm welcome to everybody who's joined the call today. I think we're now at 12 midday UK time. So I'd like to begin this session. So I just want to start off by giving a huge thanks to everybody who has attended today and an extremely warm welcome to everyone for the East Asia Careers Day today on the 30th of October 2024. My name is Mike Purvis. I'm the representative from Durham University. I am the International Work-Based Learning Manager here as part of our career services. And yes, I'd just like to welcome everybody and say thank you very much for attending and how excited I am to be part of this and looking forward to hear all the information from our amazing speakers throughout the UK and across the world today. So moving on, I will give an introduction to all of our co-hosts this morning. So this event is being run in collaboration between different universities across the UK. So a huge thank you to everybody who's involved in that and who's been helping to organise this event. First of all, I have to give a huge thanks to Mr. Jacob Lottinger, who is the UK and Ireland Director of Ambright Education Group, who are the founders of the Ambassador Year in China programme. We also have Gemma Bollard and Zoe Hepworth from the University of Sheffield as their representatives. Ellen Wage joining us from the University of St Andrews. We have Simon Rayside from the University of Edinburgh, Robert Carpenter from Imperial College London, myself I've already introduced, and then we also have some very warmly invited colleagues. We have Joe Allen from Oxford University and Luke Brockway from SOAS, University of London. So I'd just like to take this chance right now to see if any of our co-hosts would like to jump in and say hello and say any words at this present time.
Mike, thank you so much for co-hosting from Durham. Just a warm welcome to everyone, and I'd like to pay tribute to co-hosts, co-organisers, and distinguished guest speakers who've made East Asia Careers Day possible. Many thanks to everyone for coming, and we really hope that the opportunities showcased today, that this will give you a chance to pluck up the courage to apply for some really prestigious opportunities in East Asia.
That's amazing. Thank you, Jacob. Does anybody else like to say hello?
Thank you, Mike, and thank you, Jacob. Yes, just to reiterate the warm welcome to all of our panelists and our attendees today here from Sheffield. And I do hope today's session will inspire you and really make you aware of all the wealth of opportunities that await you in East Asia, and actually encourage you to think really ambitiously about your future as well. So hopefully you'll find it informative and helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma.
I just want to jump in here to say thank you, Mike and Jacob, for getting us involved in this wonderful partnership. And yeah, I'm really glad to be here and really very much looking forward to hearing all the insights our lovely guest speakers are going to share.
Okay, thank you. If none of the other co-hosts would like to say anything, I'll continue with the welcome slides. So we're looking forward at today's schedule. We have an amazing list of speakers here today, so I'll run through them briefly to introduce everybody. We have, after this welcome and introduction that I'm doing, at 12:05, we'll have the Cultural Exchange and Teaching in South Korea, known as the EPIC program. That'll be presented by Dr. Gemma Ballard, and we're very lucky to have Charlotte Hancox on the line as well, who is alumna from the program herself out in South Korea. Next at 12:20, we'll be looking at the JET program in Japan, presented by Sarah Parsons, who is the Managing Director of East West Interface and is also the former chair of JET UK Alumni Association. Next, we'll be looking at specifically the Sheffield and Durham University Ambassador Year in China programs, presented by Jacob Lottinger. Jacob will also talk about the general Ambassador Year in China programs and let people know how they can become involved in those. After those sessions, we'll be having Q&A and then a short comfort break for everybody. At 1 o'clock, we'll be coming back to the second session, where we'll be looking at scholarships. We're fortunate to be learning about the Daiwa scholarships presented by Susan Meehan, who's the scholarships officer at the Daiwa Anglo-Japanese Foundation. We'll then be looking at Yenching studentships and scholarship and grants presented by Ellen Way and Christian McDermott Pell from St Andrews University. Christian is also an alumnus of the Yenching studentships program. And then at 1:35, we'll be looking at other available scholarships in the region, presented by Jacob and Gemma again. Finally, we'll be having a last Q&A for any of the participants who want to ask questions to any of our panelists. And that's the agenda for today. One last slide from me, moving quickly on. Just some brief housekeeping information in general. So if you're a participant on the line, please keep your microphones muted so that you don't disturb the presenters while they're speaking. Your display name, if we can see your name, it would be very helpful for you to change your name to your name of your university, followed by your own name. I've put an example there. That's just very helpful for our presenters to identify who is asking questions from where. Your cameras can be on or off during the presentations. And to let you know, we'll be having a Q&A, so you can put your questions in the Q&A box, specifically via the option in this webinar. And we'll also allow time, if possible, for you to ask questions directly at the end of each presentation. That might not be possible if we don't have time in the schedule, but if there is time available, we'll give you that opportunity. During the break, we will please keep yourself logged into the session so you don't lose connection to the webinar. And again, to reconfirm, we are recording this session so that people can view it again in the future. Okay, thank you very much. I think that's more than enough from me. So I'll stop sharing my screen. And I'd very much like to pass over to Dr. Gemma Ballard from Sheffield University, who will be speaking on the cultural exchange and teaching in South Korea via the EPIC program. So welcome to Gemma.
Thank you very much, Mike, for that introduction. I will just share my screen and my presentation slides. Just bear with me 1 second. Okay, can someone on the panel just let me know if they can see those slides?
We can see them very well, thank you.
Yes. Wonderful, thank you very much. So I really want to spend most of this session of the next 15 minutes focusing on Charlotte and her experience as our guest of honour. But just to give you a brief overview of EPIC, and again, I must preface this by saying that I am not an official representative of EPIC, but I have worked with students who have been interested in this particular programme. And it's a great way of going over to Korea and obviously working in Korea in an education environment as well, if that is something that you are interested in. So there are many ways to apply through EPIC. My sort of recommendation would be to apply through the official website, but there are external companies that you can use to apply through EPIC. If you do apply through the official EPIC website, you will receive a dedicated EPIC coordinator, which can obviously be very helpful. In terms of timelines, it is a rolling application format, so there are no set deadlines as such, but I can let you know that the Spring 2025 application has now opened, and that's been open since August this year. But as always, early submission is recommended because it can be quite a lengthy application process. The EPIC website provides the detailed application guidelines, and what's worth mentioning is that you must be a citizen of a country where English is the primary language, and you can see some of those countries just there on the screen. You should hold a minimum of a bachelor's degree from an accredited university, and if this degree is not teaching or education focused, you will also need some kind of teaching qualifications such as the TEFL or TESOL certificate, and actually I'd recommend having that anyway, and I'm sure Charlotte will be able to tell us more about that in just a second. As part of your application, you also need 2 original letters of recommendation and also a lesson, a plan or handout to show essentially how you would teach and how you would perhaps inspire students as part of a teaching plan. And you will also need the E2 visa, but once you have received a successful placement, EPIC will provide you with the necessary guidance in order to acquire that E2 visa. You can state your preferred placement location on the application, but this cannot be guaranteed, but they will try to take your preference into account. But actually, I think from previous discussions with students who have taken part in the EPIC programme, it can actually be quite beneficial to be placed somewhere that you didn't initially expect, and sort of be placed out of your comfort zone a little bit as well. So moving swiftly on then, because I do want to hear about Charlotte's experiences on this programme. She graduated with a first class honours in Korean Studies in 2022, and she was also awarded the very prestigious James A. Grayson Prize in 2022 for most outstanding student in the Korean Studies programme here at Sheffield. She previously achieved TOPIK level 4, that's the test of proficiency in Korean, and she's also taken part in a variety of Korean language competitions and programmes, including the AKS, that's the Academy of Korean Studies Summer School in 2021. So she has already had extensive experience of studying and latterly working in Korea as well, so her insights are really valuable. She has previously lived in South Korea as an exchange student, and as part of her year abroad, she studied at Korea University Language School, and she's currently taking part in the EPIC programme and is situated in Sejong. So I'm just going to stop showing my screen and say a big hello to Charlotte. Thank you so much, Charlotte, for joining us all the way from Korea. I know it's very late over there at the moment, but I just wondered if you could start by telling us what attracted you to the EPIC programme and why ultimately you decided to apply.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Charlotte. And yeah, of course. So for me, of course, my major was Korean Studies, and after I graduated, I really thought about, how can I go back to Korea? I came on my year abroad. I really, really enjoyed my life here, but unfortunately it was cut a little short due to the COVID pandemic. So I thought a lot about how I can come back, and I'd heard a lot of good things about the EPIC program, and I always wanted to teach, actually. I really do enjoy teaching. So yeah, the EPIC program was the perfect opportunity for me to do both of those things at the same time.
Absolutely. I think for anyone here who is interested in teaching over there, I think it is such given that it's a government programme as well, it's a very legitimate pathway into teaching and working in Korea as well. And how did you find the application process? Is there any specific advice that you would give to future applicants when they're starting that process?
Yeah, so I mean, as you said earlier, definitely applying as early as possible, I think, is one of the best pieces of advice. It does take quite a lot of time to get together the documents and to write the application. So definitely starting earlier is better. But overall, I think the application process is pretty straightforward. So there's 3 main stages: the initial written application, which is just filling out forms really about yourself and kind of answering some essay questions about maybe how you would deal with cultural differences or teaching philosophy, things like that. And then, of course, you have to write a lesson plan too. And then with the interview as well, again, pretty straightforward. There's a lot of videos online that can help you with people going through all of the questions that they were given during their interview. So it's definitely worth checking that beforehand and making notes about the kind of questions that might come up, just so you're really prepared, because that really helped me for the interview. So you're not thrown off by any of the questions.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guidance online on the website as well, like you said. So I would encourage anyone who's interested to look at the website as well, because it's very detailed and quite comprehensive on there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And just because we do receive a lot of questions about this as well, in terms of the language itself, how much Korean do you need to be able to sort of teach out there? Do you need to have a strong knowledge of the Korean language?
Yeah, so the good thing is about this program is you don't need any prior knowledge of Korean at all. I have a lot of friends that teach here that, yeah, when they came, they didn't know anything. But as somebody who studied Korean for a really long time, I do advise to study it if you're going to move here, then to really, appreciate your time here. Definitely learning some of the language, really impress the locals, and it can really help create better bonds with, your co-workers and the teachers, and even sometimes for some of the students who, really don't know any English at all, just knowing a few words can really help them, and build good rapport.
Absolutely. I think that's such a really good point. I think just in terms of creating that dialogue and that network whilst you're out there, obviously learning the language or having a bit of familiarity with the language is necessary, I think, absolutely. And
right.
I wonder if you could just describe to us a sort of an everyday sort of schedule. What does your day look like as a teacher in South Korea?
Yeah, okay. So I will say before I talk about my day is that everyone's experience here is really different. So I can give you a rundown of my day, but someone else's day could be, completely different to that. So I live a little bit far away from my school. So I wake up, 6:30, get the bus 7:30 to get to school for 8:30, like this. And then I'm teaching from usually 9 o'clock until about 12:30. And then I have my lunch, and then I have maybe 3 hours, 3.5 hours to do my lesson prep for the following week. So it's really nice divide, I think, between teaching and some desk work as well, which I really like. And I do have some after school clubs as well on certain days, which is actually a better opportunity for me to bond with students because it's a lot of a smaller class size. So I really like that too.
Quite a rigorous schedule then of activities. I suppose it's never boring in that way.
Oh yeah, absolutely not. I mean, the classes themselves are super fun for me. I mean, I base the classes around a textbook, which I feel really lucky for. So I can kind of do half my class about the textbook for the students, and then half the class kind of doing some fun activity or game with them, which really engages them and helps them pick up the words quicker, I think.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And just on that point, have you found any, just for our aspirational teachers on the call, have you found any techniques that work particularly well in these different sort of, obviously a different cultural educational context?
Yeah, I think as somebody who learned languages too, I think that really helped me with kind of teaching English to the children. But something that I find helps best is just repetition and schedule. The students, I think, really like having a specific schedule for the classes, so they know what's coming every day. I greet them the same. It helps them pick the words up quicker, pick up phrases quicker, and then they start repeating them back to me too, which I find super rewarding.
Of course. And I think that's that key word, rewarding. I think going on a program like this and fully immersing yourself in society and engaging with children in this way as well must be incredibly fulfilling. We've got just about 2 minutes left, and I would love to ask you, Charlotte, obviously you've been out in Korea for quite some time now, and what's your plan for the future? Do you want to continue doing this?
Yeah, well, actually, I'm in the process of renewing my contract right now, so I'll hopefully be going on to do a 3rd year teaching here. But in the future, with my Korean language, I want to improve it further and maybe go and do a master's. And I'm really interested in linguistics and language learning. So potentially later, doing a master's or going into translation is something I'm really passionate about. So I'm hoping to do that.
Definitely. And I think you've given yourself such a good platform to explore those options by doing the EPIC program as well. And I've actually, what Charlotte just said there is worth reiterating, that it is possible to renew contracts, isn't it, as far as I understand, if you're having a good experience on the program.
Yeah, absolutely. So every year they ask you if you want to renew your contract, and yeah, you just write like a quick summary of why you want to renew it, and you do kind of an open class, like that they can see your kind of teaching method, and then really straightforward to renew as well. So it's really nice.
Absolutely. I think that's a really good part of this particular program. And I think we're sort of very nearly at the end now. So I just want to say a huge thank you to Charlotte for sharing her insights. Really, obviously, we value all of your sort of insights, and hearing about your experiences and your positive experiences on the program it's hopefully inspired some of the attendees here today. And I'm sure we'll see much more of you in the future as well, Charlotte. But for now, I think just a big thank you from all of us. I know it's incredibly late in Korea now, but we really do appreciate your time. And thank you very much. And I think if it's okay with Mike, we can go over to the next panelist.
Yes, so a huge thank you, Gemma and Charlotte. That was incredibly informative. Wonderful to hear about your experience, Charlotte, and extremely inspirational for people who are interested in Korea. So thank you very much for joining. And yeah, I'd like to pass over to Sarah Parsons, who's the Managing Director of East-West Interface and the former chair of JET UK Alumni Association, to talk about the JET program in Japan. Welcome, Sarah.
Thank you. I'm just sharing that. Can you see that?
Can, yes.
Brilliant. Okay, just get it on the slideshow. Okay, thank you very much. And thank you for having me here again. I've been speaking at this event for the last 3 years, and I'm always delighted to speak about the JET program. I am going to talk a little bit more widely as well about my experiences from Japan, and give you some tips for working in Japan generally as well. So that's me. I run East-West Interface. I'm going to go through this because I want to show you the link between what I did in Japan and how I've moved that into what I'm doing now. So that's my history. I'm not going to read it all out, but I went on the JET program quite a long time ago. So I am one of the senior members, one of the founding members, and this was before internet or anything like that. And then I came back and worked for the Japanese government. I got involved in the alumni of the JET program. There's over, oh gosh, we had over 4,000, 5,000 members over the years from the UK alone. I'm a trained primary teacher, and I've set up my business, and I've also done lecturing at Sheffield and SOAS, and currently a research associate at SOAS and also at the University of Warwick. So I've used the experiences I learned from Japan to set up a business. I'm going to go through this, just show you, this is something I use a lot when I do a lot of briefings, the differences in communications. So I noticed this at the time. I knew there was a big difference, and obviously I worked with the Japanese government here. So over the years, I thought, oh, I really understand there's differences. And these cause challenges for businesses. So that's how I set up my business. And we do work with both sides. I work with Anglo-European businesses. I do a lot of briefings for the government, for the Innovate UK, for the Department for International Trade, EU Japan Centre. And I work with a lot of businesses going out to Japan. I also do a lot of intercultural training as well with the big Japanese MNEs that are over in the UK, and I've done consultancy for joint ventures and mergers and acquisitions, and have spoken quite widely as well on the media about cross-cultural communications, and this is my academic experience. I'm not going to go through it. So the JET program, so it's the Japan Exchange and Teaching Program. It's been going for many years, and it's one of the most fundamental things that I've done in my whole life that's led to what I'm doing now. And it is a teaching program. It's run through the Japanese government, and the aims of it are internationalization as well at the grassroots level. And I'll explain a little bit more about that. But just the logistics first, because we are very, very close to this year's application deadline. So if you haven't started to apply yet, it's going to be quite tight. So I would recommend you do that for next year. And the eligibility, if you are applying in the UK, is that you need to be a British citizen. However, other countries do have applications, and it's not always just English-speaking countries. I know Germany and France in the past. China at some points have also had applicants on this. So you need to check with the Japanese embassy in your country. And there are various positions available now. Assistant language teacher, which is the standard. Sports exchange advisor. This came at the time of the Olympics. So they wanted to encourage more people to come from this aspect, and also coordinator for international relations as well. So there are positions for people who speak very good Japanese in the CIR position, and they normally are working in the town halls, helping with delegations, helping internationalizing. They could be doing all sorts of things. They could be translating, interpreting, but the assistant language teacher generally is in a school, and you get to choose. Sorry, you don't choose. That's the bad advice. You will be placed in either elementary, junior high, or senior high school. So there's a variety of options there. I applied as an ALT or an AET, whichever, assistant English teacher, and I was at junior high school and occasionally at the elementary school. And this is the teacher who I'm still lifelong friends with today. So I was an assistant teacher, and this is the key aspect of the JET program as well. And it sounds a little bit like the program you've just heard about as well in Korea. You are there to assist, and you may be expected to plan lessons, you may be expected to lead the lessons, but there's no expectations that you are a trained teacher. But TEFL would be very useful. I'll talk about that. But just to kind of PR the JET program a little bit more, because it's not just about teaching. They really have a focus on community involvement, because it's about internationalization. And that's my first 2 weeks in Japan. I'm sat on a big drum at a Japanese festival. That was part of my role, was to get involved with community events, teaching English to the wider community as well. And it was quite busy. I was in the middle of nowhere. I was in the countryside, so it was quite a shock to me at the time, but it was a great experience looking back, and I formed so many friendships. And this was my teacher's son, who I obviously knew as a very young child. And also coming back, many opportunities with this program to engage with the alumni. I did a lot with the alumni. I was the chair of the UK, so I was able to network at a very high level at the parliamentary group, and do lots of public speaking. But even on just coming back, there are opportunities to network with the alumni. And I was very, very honoured to have received a commendation for my work with Japan UK Links. So, but what did I gain from JET and living in Japan? Well, obviously the main one is I got to understand how they think and live, the real immersion in the culture. And I said at the beginning, I didn't have the internet, and that was an important point. And I'm not telling you all to go to Japan and then just lose the internet, but I was really immersed in the local culture. I didn't have any means of, communicating via social media. There was no social media. And I was living in a small village, There were people in the area, but I really did get immersed in the culture. I got involved with everything that I could. I played in an orchestra as well, but I got involved with everything I could. And so I really gained from that an appreciation of different culture, especially with the Japanese culture, which some of you are obviously aware of if this is your area of interest, food. But I also gained this lifelong desire to promote Japan, and a huge network of friends and professional connections that really has been incremental in my business as well. Huge network, lots of knowledge that's useful now for my business. I also gained skills that I used as a teacher as well in the UK, presenting and teaching skills, and confidence to stand up there. In Japan, you may well be asked to go on the stage and introduce yourself, and everybody's looking at you. So you have to, you will gain that confidence. And also creativity as well. I was able to practice creativity in planning some lessons as well. And the life after JET, there's a lot of ex-JETs or who are working across many industries. In fact, I always have a joke that everywhere I go, there's an ex-JET who I get to know. And it's not, obviously these are very Japan related, but there's many teachers, just people doing other jobs that have really gained from this experience. And I'll put that link on, I'll send this out to people because it's an article all about JET that I can't go into. So what skills do you need for JET, or for really living anywhere going into East Asia, which is a very different culture? Japan has a very different culture. And these are the skills that I would say you do need if you're thinking about applying to the JET program. Flexibility. You have to have some level of resilience because you are expected to go out there and represent your country. And yes, you are looked after, you are supported, but you are expected to go out there and be very resilient. Patience is one of the words that comes up a lot when we talk about Japan. You will need endless amounts of patience. Depending on your culture as well, you may well find the Japanese communication difficult to understand, that quite indirect. Things may be slower to change and happen. So patience is a crucial skill. This is a skill that everybody needs, a willingness to look at other cultures and to accept different ways of doing things. I work with businesses who still can't do this. They still don't accept there is a different way to doing something in business. So, this is a crucial skill. Independence, whether you need that or whether you're going to get that, you will have to be independent. You can't be just relying on people telling you what to do. And this, again, is a difference between working with the Japanese and maybe here. If you go into a Japanese workplace, sometimes it's very vague what you're expected to do. It may be very vague what your work description is on the JET program sometimes. So you have to be quite positive and independent and just try to help as much as you can. And think of ideas yourself. And humility. That's an important word for working with the Japanese in their culture, to think about, how can you show humility? Applying for JET, as I said, you're quite late if you've not started. For those of you that are applying or thinking about this for next year, it is not a requirement that you need to have a teaching qualification. I didn't. I had no TEFL either. However, it will look good on your application if you get a TEFL certificate, and it will help you as well. It will help you. It's very variable whether you're going to be leading a lesson, creating a program of lessons, or whether you're just going to be following the lead of the Japanese teacher. It's totally, it depends on your placement in Japan. But, having a TEFL certificate will show you're taking it seriously. do realise as well that many placements on the JET programme are still quite rural. You're not always going to get in a city. If you have needs, medical needs, religious needs, there may well be that opportunity to choose a city. But generally, the Japanese embassy are not really pleased if people start to say at the beginning, I want to be in Osaka, I want to be here. You know, that kind of attitude doesn't go down too well. Please check your applications for spelling and grammar. I know from insider knowledge that any mistakes are just thrown out. And actually, this is a useful thing for working with the Japanese. They will notice your mistakes. They will notice everything. So please do be very professional about your application. If you've got examples of work that you've been working with younger people or volunteering or teaching, these look really good. And if you wanted to be a CIR, which is the higher position working in the local government offices, you have to have a very good level of Japanese and an interest in Japan, and definitely evidence of working in the local community. Just a few little tips on other aspects, and I know you may well talk about these at the end, but there are other ways of going to Japan. There's the MEXT scholarship, which has actually closed this year, but you know, this is a postgraduate scholarship. And there are other ways of teaching in Japan. You can go to some of the language schools, which are called Eikaiwa. So you can teach out there, and if you've got a PGCE, you can teach in international schools. And there are now opportunities for people to work in Japan more widely than there was when I was there, even if you don't have very, very good Japanese skills. So I've put some links on there, and then I'll be around for the panel at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sarah. That was wonderful. Very informative and amazing to see those pictures from when you went out to Japan. Inspirational
I've not
again.
changed, have I?
Not at all, not at all. So a huge thank you to for that very helpful presentation. And I would like to pass over quickly now to Jacob Lottinger. He's the, again, UK and Ireland Director of Ambright. And Jacob will be speaking on the Durham and Sheffield Ambassador Year in China programs, and more generally about the Ambassador Year in China program as well. So welcome, Jacob.
Mike, thank you so much. It's a delight to be here at East Asia Careers Day for the third year running. And thank you warmly for giving me an opportunity to speak today. I'm here as British Isles representative for Shanghai Ambright Education Group and Shengjiao Jituan, and we're currently welcoming applications for the non-profit Ambassador Year in China program. If you're applying from Durham or Sheffield, the first step will be to submit an expression of interest to your university. If you're applying from St Andrews, Edinburgh, Oxford, Imperial or SOAS, you can apply directly via goayc.org for next September. My interest in East Asian cultures began properly with the JET program, perhaps rather like Sarah with her very inspiring talk just now, in a small Japanese village, so very rural, 22 years ago. Before joining Ambright, I taught at 10 universities in South Korea and China, and deepened cultural interests by working on book projects, sometimes articles or a blog during spare time for many years. If you're curious about Chinese holy mountains, as I continue to be, I would recommend applying for a placement in Shandong province, about an hour from Mount Tai. So with COP29 on the horizon in Baku, Azerbaijan next month, I'd like to add that I feel ethically very comfortable with all of the opportunities that we're showcasing today. So JET, EPIC, Ambassador Year in China last for at least an academic year or a full year. And that's true of the scholarships as well that we'll showcase in the second hour. Ambassador Year in China is a 10-month opportunity for one academic year initially. If you fly to Shanghai, which entails higher carbon emissions, it's possible then to travel by high-speed rail within China, rather like the KTX in South Korea, or of course the Shinkansen over in Japan. And this is a great way to limit carbon emissions. During my September stay in China, I declined the opportunity to visit a school in the Northeast for an overnight trip because I really feel that those types of carbon emissions can't be justified, and it's time now for all of us to try to take a stand on that. So I'd like to talk now about Ambassador Year in China. Last month, I found that head teachers in all Chinese schools that I visited were very keen to welcome assistant English teachers on Ambassador Year in China, who had recently graduated from universities including Durham and Sheffield. We're also very keen to recruit again from Oxford and Imperial, as we've done in the past, and to receive strong applications from St Andrews, Edinburgh, and SOAS. The role on offer is assistant English teacher in a Chinese school, and there are posts in major Chinese cities. Training is built in, and the initial contract runs from September 2025 to June 2026. Some applicants are likely to be placed at the Thomas Schools of China, known as Ansheng Xueshao in Mandarin. These bilingual Mandarin and English schools are in Shanghai, Nanjing, Jinan, that's the Jinan in Shandong province, and Hefei, Anhui province. They're prominent in the movement to implement problem-based learning in the Chinese context, with a strength in STEM subjects and a passion for art and design. So here are some sample pictures of Shanghai Thomas School, Shanghai Ansheng Xueshao. During my September tour, I met with assistant English teachers from Durham, Sheffield, and Lincoln, had dinner with them to ask for their feedback, met with head teachers at each school, and also met with many teachers, as well as watching students' most impressive problem-based learning performances. I found the schools to be vibrant workplaces with many interesting, dedicated colleagues, both from China and from other countries around the world. And the canteen food that I tried on many days was pretty good. You may find that the schedule at a school in China is different from what you're used to in the UK. Staying in campus accommodation, I found that I was often woken at 6:30 on weekdays, not by my alarm clock, but by a stirring rendition of Hungarian dance by Brahms at 6:30. I always looked forward to the Chinese canteen breakfast, which includes repeated bowls of unsweetened soy milk. You can keep helping yourself. Eggs steeped in tea, chaye jidan, steamed buns, baozi, rice porridge, zhou, peanuts, and pickles, shensai. So China does have distinctive breakfast foods that you can perhaps look forward to. So in short, there will be many new things to get used to. It's good to go with a flexible mindset and many new things to relish, but there will be some cultural adjustment as well. The assistant English teachers who I met with all seemed to be flourishing and seemed happy with their schedules. So if you're applying from Durham, we offer a university-supported Durham University Ambassador Year in China scheme. We have 2 Durham graduate ambassadors on placement in China at present. We're tremendously proud of both of them. And we hope to select up to 5 Durham graduate ambassadors for September 2025. If you're listening from Durham, you could be one of them. The first Durham graduate ambassador, Alan, who you can see in action in Shanghai in the first picture here, went on to work for the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office after his Shanghai placement and further study at Cambridge. The first step, if you're applying from Durham, is to submit your expression of interest, that's 250 words, to Mike Purvis, today's Durham co-host, via the online form shown on this slide, which Mike has very kindly set up. And the deadline for that is the 6th of January at 5 p.m. That's January 2025. After approval from Mike, you may be asked to submit a full application. We have a graduate scheme launch at Durham on the 4th of December. Please come along. It would be great to meet you in person over Chinese tea. Now, the first University of Sheffield graduate ambassadors were both from Chinese studies and are doing tremendously well over in China. With Sheffield's strength in East Asian studies, where Dr. Gemma Ballard is based, there's there's huge potential to select up to 5 excellent Sheffield graduate ambassadors for next September. And if you are studying a different subject at Sheffield, but you're curious about East Asia and particularly China, please do consider applying. You're very welcome to apply. The first step is to submit your expression of interest, up to 500 words in Sheffield's case, to Zoe Hepworth, the Sheffield Careers co-host today, at the email address given on this slide. And that's due by the 15th of December at 11:59 p.m. We have a graduate scheme launch coming up on the 27th of November at Sheffield. So again, please come along, and I look forward very much to meeting you together with Zoe over East Asian refreshments. Now, for your expression of interest, you'll need to say why you're interested in the role, what you hope to bring to it, your skills and relevant attributes, and also what you hope to gain. Please also let us know any support that you might need. That shouldn't affect the outcome of your application, but it's important for us to know in advance. So here's a quick overview of the Durham and Sheffield Ambassador Year in China university-supported graduate schemes. These unique graduate schemes in China with up to 5 places for each university. Whether you're at St Andrews, Edinburgh, Oxford, Imperial or SOAS, we would love to receive your strong applications for the Ambassador Year in China general program if you're interested both in Chinese cultures, Mandarin, and teaching. UK alumni of Ambassador Year in China have gone on to work in a variety of fields, including UK Civil Service Fast Stream, UK Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, and of course, careers in the education sector, both in professional teaching and educational technology. All who I've spoken to in subsequent years have warm memories of their time on Ambassador Year in China and have remained interested in Chinese cultures in one way or another, sometimes very actively and impressively, which seems inevitable. So many thanks indeed for your kind attention. And I think we're probably ready to move on to Q&A. Perhaps just before I hand over, I should mention eligibility criteria. So for all of the Ambassador Year in China graduate schemes, you'll need for work permit and visa purposes and for eligibility, you'll need to be a passport holder from the UK, Ireland, Canada, USA, Aotearoa, New Zealand, or Australia. You need a degree in any subject by the time you start, and you'll need to be a native level speaker of English. Thank you very much. So thank you very much indeed for your very kind attention.
Thank you very much, Jacob. That was very helpful. I realized that if there are any Durham University students on the call interested in the Ambassador Year in China program, that link might be a little hard to find. But if you search internally on the Careers Connect system for the Ambassador Year in China initiative, you will be able to come across the link directly to the application form. And anybody who has any questions can contact me directly via my email address that can be found on the internal contact lists. So before we go to Q&A, I'm just going to pause the recording so that people can feel freely to talk. So I'll pause that now. Now recording has resumed. So I'd really like to welcome everybody back and say thank you to all of our guests who've presented so far. It was extremely informative. And thank you to all of the participants for the engaging Q&A. And I'd like to pass over now to my colleague, Ellen Way. Oh, no, sorry, it's Susan Meehan, who is the Scholarships Officer at the Daiwa Anglo-Japanese Foundation. So Susan, very welcome, and I'll hand over to you now to present.
Hello, thank you, Mike. I'm really pleased to be able to take part in today's East Asia Careers Fair. So thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm delighted to be here. I am talking from the Daiwa Anglo-Japanese Foundation. I'm here at the moment, and we are a UK charity based in London near Baker Street Tube Station. As well as offering grants and scholarships, we also have events, and we also have exhibitions at Daiwa Foundation Japan House. So do please check us out on our website. And if there's anything you want to attend at the foundation, you can sign up. attended it. All our events are free of charge. So we were set up in 1988, and we're very lucky in that we were set up with an endowment given to us by Daiwa Capital Markets, a Japanese bank, which has an office in London. And our mission is to support UK-Japan links. We have a small office in London, and we also have a liaison office in Tokyo. In 2018, we received the Japanese Ambassador's Commendation, and that was to celebrate our 30th anniversary. And we also received the Japan British Society Award, a Japan Side Award, and that was mainly because of the work done through the Daiwa Scholarships, which is our flagship program. And as I said before, we offer scholarships. We also offer funding through our grants programs, and we also have events at the Daiwa Foundation. So today I'm going to talk about the Daiwa Scholarships and also the Daiwa Scholarships in Japanese Studies. Both these programs are open to British citizens only, but we have had applications and successful applications from those who have indefinite leave to remain in the UK or those who have settled status in the UK. The Daiwa Scholarships were set up in 1991, and 208 scholars have successfully completed the program. It's a 20-month program, and the first month of the program includes learning Japanese in London for 1 month, just so that the scholars can get some basic Japanese for when they arrive in Japan. The following 19 months are intended to be spent mainly in Japan. There are holidays and some scholars do travel abroad, but essentially we would like the scholars to spend most of the time in Japan and also in their free time to travel around Japan to get an idea of the beautiful country that it is. At the moment, the scholars do their year of language study at Waseda University, which is one of the top Japanese universities. It's possible that for the 2025 scholars, we might look at another institution. So we'll keep everyone in touch about that, up to date about that. After the year at Waseda, the scholars then do a 1-month homestay, which means that they choose a region of Japan that they'd like to explore, and our Tokyo office helps set this up, and they will spend a month with a family outside of Tokyo. Some scholars have gone to Hokkaido, to Fukuoka, to Kagoshima, to Niigata. So essentially you can choose wherever you want. We ask that scholars give us three places in Japan where they'd most like to go, and our Tokyo office will do its best to set this up. Every year we choose a maximum of 8 scholars, and we tend to receive anywhere from 100 to 200 applications. It really varies. The difficulty is that we only have capacity to invite 27 candidates to the first round interview. So it is really competitive. So do try and make your application stand out. And we also give we give a lot of weight to the 3 reference letters that we ask candidates to arrange to arrive at the foundation by the application deadline. We cover flights to and from Japan. We cover tuition costs, also the costs of Japanese language tests, which scholars take in Japan. And we give a stipend of 280,000 yen per month. Rent in Japan, in Tokyo, tends to be around 80,000 yen or 90,000 yen a month. We provide private medical insurance, and the Tokyo office is also on site to help with any issues. Here you can see the 5 scholars who were chosen in 2024. We have scientists, a historian, and an architect. So Lizzie's interested in volcanoes and also in the mineralization of CO2, carbon dioxide. So she's interested in sustainability. Zach is interested in Japanese history. Jasmine is interested in recycling of plastic through the use of bacteria. Lewis is interested in robotics, and Tibor is interested in Japanese architecture. He's a big fan of Kengo Kuma, Japanese architect who actually designed the V&A in Dundee, for anyone who's been there. And you can also see pictures of the scholars studying Japanese. They did a month of Japanese at the foundation before going out to Japan, and we also arranged some talks for them at the foundation. So there's a picture of Vicky Chuk, who works at the Ministry of Defense, talking about her experience as a scholar to the new scholars. Here is a picture of the 2023 scholars, and it's just to give you an idea of the diversity of the scholars in terms of the different subjects that they're interested in. The 2023 scholars include 2 lawyers, someone who's interested in neurodegenerative diseases, an artist, someone who's interested in parasites in fish, someone else who's interested in publishing, and Jake, who's an elite runner and who's interested in setting up a sports company on his return to the UK. The scholars have been going to Waseda University. Here you can get an idea of the campus. Some of the scholars join clubs at Waseda University, such as Karate Club. Someone told me yesterday that they had recently joined the hockey club. So there are lots of extracurricular for the scholars to engage with as well. And so I mentioned the homestays and the work placements. Here I've chosen some pictures showing the scholars doing both work placements and homestays. So in the middle, there's a picture of the Sado Island off the coast of Niigata. Below, you've got Fergus, who's a Durham University graduate. His work placement was with Cosmo Eco Power. He was interested in wind turbines, and he's stayed on in Japan. He's still working for Cosmo Eco Power. And we've also got Sami, who did his homestay in Kochi Prefecture in Shikoku. We've also got a picture of Jake, the elite runner, and he's doing his work placement with Tempo, which is a running organization. And here you can see a very brief video of him.
Hi, Susan. We can't see the video, unfortunately.
Oh, sorry. Okay. That's a pity, but I can try and share that with the on the chat. Okay. And here again, a few more work placement photos. Rachel then at the top is an astrophysicist. She's interested in space and space policy, and she did her work placement at Astroscale in Tokyo, and now she's back in the UK and working for Astroscale back in Europe. In her year, there was another space scientist called Amy Smith who also worked at Astroscale. Amy was interested or is interested in debris in space. At the top right-hand corner, you can see Kathleen Riley, who's a metal worker, and she's talking, she gave a presentation at Japan House London. She also gave a presentation at Daiwa recently because she'd come back to the UK to take part in the London Design Festival to launch her new butter knife. Simi is down there. She's a ceramicist and is back in the UK. She opened a pottery in Oxford. And Katie is a gardener. And she did her work placement in working on gardens in Japan with landscape architects. And she's back in, and she's continued to stay on in Japan, but she's moved out of Tokyo. We also have the Daiwa scholarships in Japanese studies. These are only available to those who have done a degree in Japanese. And what we do is cover any postgraduate courses that someone might do related to Japan. It can be to do with Japanese literature, Japanese history, archaeology, and we will fund the course fees, home student fees, and we also give a stipend of £1,400 a month for those in the UK and 280,000 yen for those in Japan. And we've had scholars apply to us from all sorts of universities in the UK. Lots of them have studied at universities in Japan, but we've also had a few do their postgraduate courses at Cambridge, East Anglia, Edinburgh, Oxford, and Sheffield universities. This is just to give you an idea of what scholars get up to while they're in Japan. So lots of sightseeing, visiting castles. And then there's a picture of the 2020, 2021, and 2022 scholars on their graduation. Those scholars all went out in September 2022, and they only graduated in March 2024. Departure for Japan had been delayed because of COVID. And here, this is just to give you a snapshot of scholars and what they're doing since the scholarship. So at the bottom, there's someone called Edmund Stenson, who's a filmmaker, and I recently went to see his latest film called Blink. It was shown as part of the London Film Festival. Becca Volker was recently chosen as a New Generation Scholar. Ben Outram he's launched a career as a games developer, and he came to talk to us at the foundation. And I mentioned Kathleen Riley before, who's a metal worker and a designer, and she was in London recently launching her new knife. We are looking for candidates who have leadership potential, who have an interesting angle on Japan, who are interested in learning language, who are flexible, adaptable, and who also have strong references, who can, and referees who can vouch for the fact that they'll be leaders in their chosen careers. The deadline for the Daiwa scholarships is coming up in early December. The deadline is always the first Thursday in December, and the deadline for the Japanese Studies Scholarship is the last Thursday in January. And thank you very much for listening.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Susan, for that presentation. Amazing to see what the wide variety of students that you have and the different interests and fields that they cover. So yes. Yeah, very diverse. So that was very informative. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike.
No problem. So next we are moving on now to Ellen Way. We'll be discussing the Yenching scholarships, and we're very fortunate also, I think, to have Christian McDermott Pell, who is an alumnus of the Yenching Scholarship Program as well, with us on the line to discuss his experiences. So I'll hand over now to Ellen. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you very much for the introduction, Mike. So hello again, everybody. I'm Ellen from the Opportunities team at the University of St. Andrews Career Center. So great to meet you all. Today, we're really excited to welcome our alum Christian, who's joining us from Beijing to share his insights on the Yenching Scholarship. So this is an incredible opportunity offered by Yenching Academy at Peking University, allows students to pursue an interdisciplinary master's in China studies, fully funded to cover tuition, living expenses, and so many more. Christian, as Mike mentioned, his fellow St. Andrews graduate also recently completed this program and has started working in Beijing. And congratulations, Christian. And we also really appreciate you joining us in the late evening across the globe. So thank you so much once again. So feel free to drop any questions in the Q&A as we go, and we'll try and answer as many as we can after the presentation. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Christian.
Hello, everyone. Lovely to chat with you from Beijing. I'm not too sure if my camera is working too well, but I will go ahead anyway and share my slides, as that's what's most important anyway. So yeah, I'll just get those going. Could I just confirm that you can see my slides okay?
We can see them,
Yeah.
thank you.
Perfect. So yeah, hello, welcome everyone. My name is Christian. So I'm a Yenching scholar at Peking University, and just a little background on the talk we're going to be having today is essentially a 2 years master's degree program in China Studies. So I'll just move that to the side. Yeah, this program essentially is based in Jingyuan Courtyard, the beautiful Jingyuan Courtyard in Peking University in Beijing. And I'll just explain very briefly what you can expect with this program. So essentially, as I say, it's a 2 years master's program in China Studies, very interdisciplinary, with lots of different research areas and focuses you can concentrate on. Although it's in China, we don't require Chinese proficiency. However, of course, it is encouraged, and expect to obviously have some excellent lessons in Chinese once you're there. So not only is Yenching Academy a school within Peking University, which is China's #1 and Asia's #1 university, so you can actually also choose modules from the university as a whole. Now, oh, there we go. This is a full scholarship program. So what you can expect from this is essentially full tuition paid for as part of the program. You'll get a place to live on the Peking University campus, which you can see in the background, Weiming Hall here. You'll get a monthly stipend of about 3,000 yuan, which is about just over £300, which is more than enough to survive quite well in Beijing. Also, one round trip, so you can go home and see your family, of course, and medical insurance and funds for field trips, which I'll just get into here. So on top of this, you get a Dean's Research Grant, which allows you to go anywhere in China and conduct your own field research. You also get an academic exchange grant. So we're just talking about opportunities in Japan as part of our program. You also get the chance to go to Waseda University and the exchange program, Seoul National University, but also a bit closer to home. Unless you're from the UK, you can go to Cambridge, Trinity, and many other universities as part of this exchange in the second year. So, as I was saying, there are many different tracks as part of this Yenching program. Essentially, there's 6 in total. I myself was economics and management, but there's something for everyone in the way that you could study history, literature and culture, politics, international relations. So also one of the opportunities you have is a paid for field study on top of the Dean's Research Grant. I myself went to Southern China to research UNDP projects on access and benefit sharing right down near Myanmar. Also, we have a field trip to Chengdu where you can go and understand a bit more about ancient Western culture such as Sanqingdui and the pandas. Of course, you'll get to see there too. So we also like to invite many distinguished guests to our program. We've had the former French Prime Minister, Italian Prime Minister come, along with many ambassadors, such as Irish Ambassador to China, Anne Derwin. So we always like to, have as many sort of different viewpoints and distinguished guests to come along and really provide their unique experiences and backgrounds. So we also have our Yenching Global Symposium. So every year, our students actually run a big symposium. I myself, our year went to Hainan province, and we invite scholars and attendees from other academic institutions to come and learn with us. So that's a great opportunity as well. Here were some of the previous designs done by students on our program. So what did I do? Because obviously there's a lot of general information on the website. I thought I could tell you a bit about some of the opportunities I've had which the thing is, if you come to China, it's hard to not get opportunities. There's so much you can do here, from going on TV shows to talk about biodiversity or climate, to playing for the Yenching Academy's football team, getting involved with British Stand at PKU, the Scottish Society here in Beijing, of course, visiting new energy projects, and also going to multilateral development banks such as AIB. So we come from all around the world, so there's many opportunities, whether you're from Africa, Europe, Asia. Everyone's welcome, of course, and we encourage a diverse cohort. So where are some of the students hailing from for their undergrads or masters? Of course, even if you already have a master's, as I did from the University of St Andrews, you can still apply for the program. So many, of course, from UK institutions, and of course, Peking University as well. And this year, actually, we had quite a few from KCL, Cambridge, and hopefully we can get a few more from St Andrews by the end of this. That would be great. So what do you do after graduation? Many, of course, are very interested in doctoral studies, go on for further study, but again, many opportunities, international organizations, big tech firms such as Huawei, or your classic sort of big four. So I'll just briefly say what we're looking for. Essentially, you just need a bachelor's degree in any field, an outstanding academic record, a record of extracurricular achievement. So we really want to see people getting involved with things outside of their studies, of course, but also the key thing is to show a strong interest in China. It doesn't mean you've had to have come before, but just, you know, really displaying that you're interested in learning about this wonderful country is yeah, it goes a long way. And of course, the program is English taught on the whole, so English proficiency is a must. Yeah, there's some further details about the required documents. We will want sort of a statement of research interest, a sort of, you know, plan for your thesis essentially, and a personal statement. And of course, there's some academic letters of recommendation that would be required, followed eventually by a final interview. So I want to leave some time for questions. I hope I haven't gone over too much for time, but essentially, feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you're curious, or I've sort of rushed over things a bit too much and you'd like to ask some questions. Please feel free to reach out. And also, here are some of the contact details for the academy. So yeah, I'd be pleased to take any questions.
Thank you so much for your fantastic presentation, Christian. Yeah, it's really nice to see those pictures of the beautiful campus of Peking University, and also the events you involved with. That's fantastic. So yeah, I think we still have like about 10 minutes here. So if anybody got any questions,
Sure.
Feel free to yeah, fire on. I haven't seen any questions coming in through the Q&A. Yeah, but if anyone want to like unmute yourself or like put it in the chat box, just feel free to do that. Or I could also kind of start with some questions, if that's all right.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I did race through because I think it's better, you know, to answer any questions rather than sort of focus on the details that are on the website. But sure, yeah, go ahead, Alan.
Yeah, so just wondered like if you are like thinking back like 2 years ago, like when you were about to graduate from St Andrews, like how did you do to kind of like research for different opportunities in Asia, and what like helped you to kind of make up your mind, make decisions to come and study in Yenching Academy?
So yeah, thanks for the question, Ellen. So for me, I mean, there was very little known about the Academy when I applied. I mean, one thing that the Academy, it's an absolutely amazing program, but getting the word out is a tough one. And that's why I come here to try and, you know, promote the program and the amazing opportunity it is. For me, I mean, I found a post on Reddit, essentially buried in a forum, but really, the more I found out about it, the more I sort of looked on YouTube to see what people had done in the past and looked at their website. And it was really exciting to see the opportunity there is. And of course, you know, if you're from a sort of lower socioeconomic background, it's a really fantastic opportunity, as it is a full scholarship, and everyone's welcome. And you know, whether you've got the funds to go out of China or not, they will provide for you. I mean, I remember when I went out, it was during COVID-19, and the flight tickets, I would never have been able to afford it by myself, especially how scarce they were. But the Academy supported us all to come. I think that's absolutely fantastic. But yeah, I mean, research is important, but luckily now we have a brand new website as well. So it's all on there. I'll skip back to that last page actually, just so anyone can take a photo of that. But it's all up there, and I think it's really important to raise awareness of these opportunities, because yeah, I think otherwise you might not know. So please don't miss out and go check it out. You won't regret it.
Thank you for the advice. Yeah, I think it's always a great idea to kind of like research, and especially on those ones who are already complete those programs, and listen to what they thought about it. Yeah, so I think we have a quick question from the Q&A. So can Chinese people apply for this program?
So I wouldn't be the expert on the Chinese application. I mean, we do, a third of the students on our course are Chinese. So it is a mixed program. I don't know the process from undergrad, but please do email the email address here, and they will answer your questions. But yeah, the program is mixed. There are a third Chinese scholars, and the rest are from all around the world. So yeah, yeah, I hope. Yeah, for more details though, certainly that would be good to get in touch with the office, and they'll be delighted to answer your questions.
Yeah, absolutely. The admissions office is always the first contact. Yeah, I'm sure they'll be able to help. Thanks for the question, Zilin Chan. Right.
Yeah,
so while we're waiting for more questions coming in, may I ask another one?
Of course, yeah.
Thanks. So when you are like doing this kind of preparation for like interview, or like for applying for the Yanqing Academy scholarship, I wonder like what things kind of did you prepare, and also what do you think about those recruitment process, and what makes you stand out?
Sure. So, I mean, for me, I'd already been to China for a 2-month internship at Ping An, which is China's largest insurance company. But that was actually a British Council program that sent me out and really got me interested. I mean, that really helped me stand out, I'd say, but it doesn't mean that you have to have already been to China at all. Most people hadn't been before, in fact. But I think, again, demonstrating an actual interest in China, I think it comes through at the interview, it comes through in your personal statement. If you're interested, it will shine through, whether that's through reading, or through, you know, being interested in the artworks or the history, or even, you know, of course, its economy and its startup businesses and e-commerce giants. If you can show a passion for China studies and aspects within that, that will shine through. And I think that's the most important thing for our course. It is less about your work experience. You know, academic background's important, but actually the Yanqing program cares less about which institution you come from, and more about your passion for what you want to learn, and your academic skills. That's what we value the most. Strong academic skills, which of course you'll have coming from the University of St. Andrews, and an interest in China. That is the main thing that can help you. And of course, you know, if you know a bit of Chinese as well, that goes a long way. But just a bit of willing, even if it's HSK1, that would be great to put down. Yeah, certainly.
That's fantastic.
And I see there's also a question in the chat about the exchange program. So I didn't do the exchange program mainly because my Chinese was so bad when I started the program. So I wanted to stay for a bit longer and spend my time in China, also interning at the British Chamber of Commerce, because you get a lot of time in the second year to basically do anything you want. But a lot of people do the exchange program. It is funded as well, so you get extra funds to go and study abroad. There is obviously internal competition, so you have to apply to that university, but it's all the whole process is supported through the Yenching Academy. So you're not on your own. It is supported. We have the partnerships in place, and this will happen in the second year when you write your thesis, because it's a 2-year master's program. And yeah, that is also funded as well. So not to worry about that at all.
That's brilliant. Thank you. And I hope that answered your question, like for the student who asked it. And right, so while we're waiting, maybe I could ask one more question, or maybe
I think,
two
Ellen,
more.
if I could just very
Yeah.
politely interrupt, I think we're
Sure
kind of
thing.
we're going into the timing for the next slot. So if I could,
sorry about that.
that's
Didn't
absolutely fine,
notice.
no problem at all. It was a brilliant presentation. So thank you very much to both of you. Christian, wonderful to hear about your experience. There are still 2 questions in the Q&A, so you can actually go ahead and answer those via text in a chat format. So if you can see those, then that would be great. And there will also be a chance to do Q&A at the end after this next portion of the presentation. So for now, I just want to say a huge thank you very much for participating. And I'm going to hand over again to Jacob to speak about other scholarships that are available in the region.
Mike,
thank you so much. A real pleasure.
Christian, thank you so much. So I think it's now time for Dr. Gemma Ballard and I to give a very quick roundup of scholarships available in South Korea and in the Chinese-speaking world in mainland China. I'd like to hand over actually first to Gemma. So Gemma, would you like to speak about the Korean government scholarship first?
Yes, thank you so much, Jacob. I will quickly share my screen for you all. Let me, here we go. Okay, so again, I must preface this by saying that I am not an official representative of the GKS, which is the Global Korean Scholarship. This is a very prestigious scholarship, though, so I did want to bring it to your attention. For those of you who are planning or would like to complete further education in Korea. So they do different graduate courses for both Masters and PhD. And applicants with UK citizenship can actually apply through the Korean Embassy in the UK as well. But as it says here as well, there are different tracks that you can take. You can either go directly through the university itself or through your embassy in your particular country. And according to the website, which I would encourage you to look at because there's extensive information on there, in terms of nationality criteria, you and your parents must have foreign citizenship, i.e. you cannot be a Korean national to apply for this particular scholarship. Now, it says on the website that the 2025 GKS guidelines will be released in mid-February 2025. However, if you are interested, you can actually see the full application guidelines for 2024 on the website now. And I would encourage you to do that if you are interested so that you can start preparing earlier. There are many benefits to this scholarship, including living allowance, airfare, tuition fees, language courses, medical insurance, and so much more. Obviously, graduate applicants must hold a bachelor's degree if you're applying for a master's program, or a master's degree if you're interested in a doctoral program. And as I said, there are those 2 different routes to applying for this particular scholarship. But I must also emphasise that applications and the application process may differ slightly depending on, one, your selected graduate programme, if you're going for a master's or that doctoral programme, or depending on the university as well. But I must stress that this is a highly competitive scholarship because it's so prestigious and it's internationally facing. So you need to prepare your application thoroughly. And actually, in previous years, for example, only 3 to 4 applicants have actually been selected from the UK. I don't want that to deter you from applying, but I think because it's such a rigorous application process, it's better to start preparing early and give yourself the best possible chance of succeeding at this. And I actually thought it would be interesting to just take a bit of wording from the website itself, because I think this can really help you to tailor your application based on the expectations of this government scholarship. Because as I said, it is internationally facing. It's all about promoting the ties between Korea and various international countries, and again promoting this exchange in education, as it says here. So when you do start your application and your personal statements and things like that, try to bear the official language, the official scholarship language in mind as you're completing that. But as I said, I can only really give a general overview of this because I'm unfortunately not an expert, but please do go to the website, because there are extensive details on there, and you can see the full sort of the step-by-step stage progress for the application itself. So that was just a very brief overview of GKS, and I will stop sharing and pass over to Jacob.
Gemma, thank you so much. And may I just check that you can see my screen and the first slide. So thank you so much for the introduction to the Korean Government Scholarship for South Korea. I'd like to give a quick overview of scholarships for postgraduate study in mainland China. I'll speak briefly about the Schwarzman scholarships, Yenqing scholarships, and Chinese government scholarships. If you're interested in the Chinese-speaking world and Mandarin Chinese, you could also look towards Taiwan potentially. So first, the Schwarzman scholarships. This is an opportunity to complete a fully funded master's degree in global affairs at Tsinghua University in Beijing. And I do have warm memories of working at Tsinghua in 2005 to 6. It's a lovely, very leafy campus. When I say that these scholarships are fully funded, I mean that tuition, room and board, travel to and from Beijing, required books, a Lenovo laptop, health insurance, and a personal stipend are all included. Interview expenses are also covered for the program, so this seems to be very well funded. To be eligible, you must have completed an undergraduate degree, be aged 18 to 28, and be fully proficient in English. The next application period for global applicants is from April to September 2025, and this would be for 2026 admission. If you hold a Chinese passport, the application window is a little different. It's from January to May 2025. That's again for 2026 admission. And if you're interested, you can sign up on the Schwarzman Scholars website to receive updates. The rigorous application process includes online application, supporting documents, a review of applications by a distinguished committee, and some candidates will be invited to interview in late October or early November. In fact, the reason we can't get a more authoritative speaker for the Schwarzman scholarships is that they're so busy with interviewing at this time of year. You can ask questions via the schwarzmanscholars.org website shown here, and they'll be able to give a much more authoritative answer than I'm able to give. Second, the Yenqing Scholars Programme. So I'd really like to thank Christian McDermott-Pell. He's given such a brilliant overview, many insights based on actually passing through the programme. This is a chance to study at the other very top university in Beijing, Peking University, known as Beida. It's a 2-year programme, so longer potentially than the Schwarzman programme, twice as long, and all admitted students receive the Yenqing Fellowship for the first academic year. Many thanks indeed to Christian for speaking about this much more authoritatively than I'm able to. And it's also good to see that at least one St Andrews graduate who came to last year's East Asia Careers Day is now a Yenqing scholar in Beijing. Finally, if you want to apply for a different degree program, perhaps a doctoral program at another Chinese university, there are some lovely campuses across China. Perhaps with intensive Chinese study for a first year, you could look at Chinese government scholarships. I've included relatively little on this. It's something I explored many, many years ago when I was based in Chengdu at Sichuan University. And I guess, to be very frank, there are 2 questions that I think you should ask if you're exploring this. The first question is just whether the books and the angles that you want to take on your research topic will be possible in China, because of course there are perhaps different approaches or restrictions. And the other thing is I would look at funding and whether it will enable you to do things like come back to the UK to stay in touch with family and friends over here, that type of thing. Also international travel insurance over several years, if you're looking at a longer program such as a PhD. Those were certainly some concerns for me years ago. So thank you very much indeed. And that completes the roundup of scholarships available in China. I think we're ready to move into the Q&A with other panelists for the scholarships and for the East Asia Careers Day as a whole. But Mike, over to you.
Yes, so thank you very much, Jacob and Gemma, for that, and apologies for having to interrupt Christian earlier. So yes, I'd just like to say before we continue to the Q&A that a huge thank you to all of our panelists, our co-hosts and guests that have spoken today at the event. I'm going to stop the recording now as we go into the Q&A. So thank you so much for participating in the East Asia Careers Day. So